All right. Hello, everybody. So Tristan is figuring out a couple of technical details, but it is officially time for our show this week. Just to get things kicked off, my name is Jonathan Singer, and welcome to GPS Live. This happens to be the week of February 24th, 2023. And for those tuning in live online, hello. We'd love to see your comments. Please be sure to drop those in and give us some feedback. How are we doing? Is there things you'd like to see? Are you directly affected from the stories of this week? One way or another, let us know. Tristan is back. I'm going to throw him in the stream. Here we go.
Hey, there we go. What's up?
Yeah.
I think my dog accidentally pulled the cord for my my camera.
That's okay. We only missed you for a couple seconds, but I was just kicking the show off, and so again, my name is Jonathan Singer,
and I am Tristan Morris, and
hey,
Jill
Tristan.
is here to say Friday.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Happy
Jill.
Friday to you, Jill.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. I know Jonathan was just going through this, but if you're joining us live, thank you so much. We appreciate you taking some time on your Friday to sit with us and talk about some cybersecurity news. And thank you also if you're watching this on demand, because, hey, you didn't have to. It really means a lot that you're here. As we've just demonstrated with Jill, you guys can go ahead and leave comments and we can see those and interact with them. They come in a little bit delayed for us, like just a slight bit. So if you comment on something that we say in the moment, we might have to circle back to it. But yeah, we are so happy that you were here. All
Absolutely.
that being said,
so how are you doing this week, Tristan? How are things going?
Things are going, man. Things are I'm here. I'm alive.
That's good.
It's been an interesting week. Nothing terrible. I mean, it's not like I was the victim of a major ransomware attack or anything like that. That makes it sound sarcastic, like I might have been. I wasn't. Gonna, you know what? Hey, real quick, how are you, Jonathan?
I'm doing quite well. I'm on the road today. I wanted to give a shout out to our local OWASP chapter here in Tampa. We held our first quarterly meeting of the year, and so cheers to everybody who came out to the event today and all the other local OWASP chapters out there spreading the good word about application security.
Good word about the AppSec. You're going to see me looking down a lot potentially for the next couple of minutes because my dog is currently in the mood to like try to paw her way into my chair.
That's okay. We have some really great stories today too, talking about you getting hit with ransomware personally.
Before we get to them, though, it's really important.
Oh, yes.
To know that we're just a couple jamokes and the views and opinions that we express are not necessarily the views and opinions of GuidePoint Security. We're just two dudes having a jaw about cybersecurity. That's it. Yeah. That's all we are.
Of course. So how about this? You play with the dog, and I'll kick us off for our first story because ransomware is a big... Oh, we have another guest. and they're pushing buttons, as we can tell.
So it's pushing
So
buttons. There we go.
so the first story for this week is major, food manufacturer gets hit by ransomware, and it's halted all of their North American production lines. And this is kind of a big deal. And so to kind of go into the story, coming to us from CNN Business, um, everybody's favorite pineapple manufacturer has been hit with ransomware earlier in the month, and it has been disclosed to the retail stores and everybody about, incoming shipments. And this is a direct correlation between technology affecting produce products
Yep.
and what I call our, supply chain at home, right? I need to
Yep.
supply my family with fresh vegetables and fruits, and I need to know that my distributor, the grocery store, is going to have what I need for my family, right? We're so focused and fixed on the supply chain and the SBOM of our technology and our businesses, but we forget that sometimes these ransomware attacks happen to roll over into the real world, right? We featured the story
Yep.
last week about what was it outside of San Francisco that was also, part of this, but cities, right, and
Yeah.
education facilities and stuff being hit by ransomware. And this is just another one of those things.
Yeah. And this is coming almost a year, right? Almost or 2 years.
Hmm.
2 years now. Time flies. Wow. Almost 2 years after the Colonial Pipeline attack kind of
Hmm.
affected all of us. Um, but we talk a lot about cybersecurity as a national security issue, and we think about stuff like the Colonial Pipeline or our electrical grid or
Hmm.
all of these other aspects. But like you said, the stuff that hits close to home, those things obviously would affect home. If you lose power at your house, that's a huge deal. Um, but things like this are also extremely important to think about because it's like the small the small things that maybe we kind of take more for granted, right? Like, where do you get your fresh produce from? Where are your veggies coming from? Where's the food that you use to keep your family going coming from? And is that also secure? Because those are small. What's the word that I'm looking for? uh those are small, almost like inconvenient ways to subvert the security,
Yeah.
right? If you just kind of get the people riled up, and you start slowly chipping away at their morale, and at their lifestyles, then all of that adds up over time. And so this kind of idea of the fact that, like, even just the small kind of aspects of our day to day are just as important to national security. I think food security to me is part of national security, right? The housing, all these kinds of things. Like, if we start taking these systems offline that offer the protection of just our day to day lives, um, that's going to have a massive impact across the country. Now, with Dole
Yeah.
in particular, like you mentioned, they this was a memo that was sent out to their. Hi, Hazel. Thank you. Yes, it's so convenient for you to want this right now. This was from a memo that was sent out to grocery stores from via their distributors. They were informed because these stores could not keep um, Dole salad kits, was the big thing that was called out in the CNN article, kind of on the shelves. They just didn't have any supplies of them. Hazel, you are such a precious pup. 60 pounds of
Yeah.
pure joy.
So
But they did confirm it when this story came to us from CNN. They did confirm to CNN when they reached out to them that yes, it was a ransomware attack. This story, though, I highly recommend. Aside from just the cybersecurity interest, definitely go read this CNN article for some of the quotes from local store owners about how they can't stock these because they are
yeah.
great.
And we've been seeing a huge uptick in the food and agricultural sector, especially in the last couple of years, because of this whole kind of like supply chain consideration when it comes to like the United States or this country as a whole. For instance, one of the other large food supplier call outs when it comes to ransomware was a couple of years ago was JBS. It
Oh
was the
yeah,
world's
yeah,
largest meat supplier, right? And a ransomware attack hit them back in May of 21, and forced them to temporarily close facilities in the US, Canada, and Australia. In their case, they ended up paying an $11 million ransom just to get things back online. Now, currently, this particular food manufacturer hasn't necessarily said how long they plan to keep the production lines offline, but it is an ongoing issue. And really, like I said, it just kind of something ticked in me where I thought, that targeting things like this critical infrastructure, like critical food supply, energy sector, all these other things that affect our day-to-day lives are just it's a massive kind of attack on everything as a whole. And sometimes it does require us to take a step back and figure out what is going on in our communities and how do we need to start strengthening this stuff, because just because you maybe take a company offline or hack some business, whatever is downstream of them is directly going to be affected. In this case, it's people's stomachs.
Yeah. Speaking of initiatives to be more secure and to push for greater cybersecurity, I'm thinking about it because in this article itself, CNN references that they reached out to the Department of Agriculture and the
Mhm.
Department of Homeland Security for comment and haven't heard back yet. I always like to throw the yet in there because if you just say we haven't heard back, it makes it sound really conspiratorial. But they haven't heard back yet. They're probably very busy dealing with other stuff on related to this, but. They mentioned there's this push for cybersecurity, and that extends from the government level down. We've talked about a lot of these stories to pushing for greater security features out of the box built into tech that we use day to day. And so that brings us to our next story in kind of a one step forward, two steps back kind of event here. The government's been pushing for greater cybersecurity implementation and trying to encourage people to implement better cybersecurity. And for a while, there was a great push towards two-factor authentication. But unfortunately, Twitter has already done this and is already doing it. And Meta is potentially, Facebook owner Meta is potentially toying with it as well. But putting security features that most of us, I would say, probably consider pretty basic security features, putting them behind a paywall. And this came out from some internal memos and from some internal plans and documents to take two-factor authentication via SMS for Twitter. Take that offline and put it only behind a paywall as long as you're paying for Twitter Blue.
Yeah.
This is really unfortunate. Like this is in the list of terrible decisions that you could make. I think this is probably up towards the top.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this myself. So when I initially, was using Twitter back in the day, and SMS was the only option when it came to multi-factor
Yeah.
authentication for the platform. So of course I enrolled in it and I participated in receiving my 6-digit PIN code via text message.
What was the
But
default? Like the default
Well,
setting.
it was all that was available at the time. Now they do, support modern authenticator platforms, but that requires you to actually go into your security settings and manually migrate over. With this latest announcement, Twitter is basically saying either you're paying us as part of the Twitter Blue subscription to maintain having SMS as a multi-factor authentication point, which again was default, or we're just simply just going to remove it,
Yeah.
and you have to then go back in and set up an authenticator,
Which is not the most
profile.
intuitive process for people if you're not already in that ecosystem. Like there's for one, choosing your authenticator. Right. I use a password manager and it has a built-in authenticator that works for some sites. It doesn't work for all sites because it really depends on a site-by-site basis how they want to offer two-factor authentication.
Mhm.
Then you've got Google Authenticator, then you've got Okta, then you've got Duo. Like there's a billion options that are out there. So you have to figure out which one works, which one's going to work across the most platforms that you're utilizing. Set it up, get it working across those things. Figure out, hopefully, how to get it across multiple different. Hazel, you're just a joy. Hopefully, figure out how to get it across multiple different operating systems and platforms that you might be using, right? So download those apps or get access to those things across all your different platforms. And two-factor authentication to me is one of those things. It's like it should be dead simple. Like we should be able to just agree on a standard. But the fact that I have multiple different bank accounts with different banks for different purposes, not a single one of them offers a way for me to use a convenient and consolidated two-factor authentication. They're all building their own two-factor authentication, whether it's by SMS or by saying, well, you can use your app to, like, our own app is your two-factor authentication. And it's ridiculous. If I'm trying to log into Navy Federal on my phone, I'm using the app on my phone, and it says we need to verify your identity. Do you want us to send a code to your app on your phone? And it even says you are using this device. It knows that I'm on the device. It's offering to send me a push notification through the very app I'm trying to log into in order to get a two-factor authentication code. This should not be that hard. Why is Twitter taking it away? Like, it's the
Yeah.
easiest implementation.
Well, look, so there is a lot of compromises when it comes to understanding the different potential ways that you can do multi-factor authentication, right? Authenticator apps and rolling codes and stuff like that are, becoming more of an industry standard. We're seeing a lot more push towards FIDO2 and security keys. But one of the key details here is that a default MFA method is being simply just removed, and you have to go back
Yeah.
in and manually set it up again through a different platform. The challenge becomes that Twitter is claiming that they were losing close to $60 million on a regular basis, $60 million a
Sending
year,
text
uh,
messages.
because of this text messages. Now, um, let's take a look at it from this perspective. Attackers love SMS-based MFA, and
Mhm.
the reason is because of SIM swapping, right? And
Yeah.
so by attacking a cell phone carrier, you can take over a phone number, even for a short period of time, and convincing them through stuff like social engineering and stuff like that to put it to another IMEI, get the text message, and then return the line back to the original owner. And
Yeah.
now you've gone ahead and bypassed the two-factor because you received a text message that originally was expected to be private back, to that user. And so this particular methodology has been around for a long time. We've seen, a lot of different hacking groups target carriers to do this exact type of bypass for multi-factor to get that SMS message. So it's good that that is, in a sense, being sunset, but you can't just drastically jump from something to nothing.
Right.
You have to have some kind of transition, and you have to
I
allow users to rebuild their security.
I also take umbrage with the reasoning that they're giving, right? I think they've given away what their reasoning is. They said the quiet part out loud, right? In their documentation, in their memos, they're saying, "Hey, it's because this is insecure. People can take advantage of it."
Mhm.
That doesn't logically hold up, because if that was the case, why are you saying it's only an option for paid? Shouldn't paid users get the better security option? Right, but they're taking it away for everyone and only letting paid users have this, apparently, as they're saying, method that is so insecure that it's not worth keeping around. But then for, Elon Musk to say, well, we're losing $60 million a year. This is, to me, this is super problematic, because it's pretty clear to me, I think, that this is a purely profit driven decision on their part. So they are taking away greater security for their users, something that, like you said, was standardized amidst a push by the government to say, hey, if you're offering things that let people connect online, if you're offering these things, you should be building security in from the baseline. And they're taking it away and holding it for ransom. And it's an upsetting and troubling start to what could be a trend. Since
Yeah.
Meta has also started toying with rolling out paid verification on their platform.
Well, that's an entirely different story. I think that's
Yeah.
a perspective of, hey, look, if they can do it, we can do it too, kind of
Right.
thing. You just always have to take security into consideration. And that's, that was the big swing and a miss with this. And we're monitoring the rollout closely, right? I know that I have successfully switched over already well before this announcement.
Yeah.
Um, but there are going to be many users that are suddenly finding themselves without a multi-factor authentication on their Twitter by default, and they're going to scramble and or their accounts. We might see a spike in
Yeah.
account compromises because of the rampant password reuse that exists online in general these days. Um, So that's one. It looks like we have Tim hopping in here, and he's kind of giving a little insight about how there were over 300 telcos that were triggering the SMS sending, therefore was creating SMS
Bill for Twitter.
charge and
Yeah.
billing, and so it was kind of like this artificial rolling bill that was being generated and created because of the abuse on the platform. And so
I think that's definitely a concern. Timothy, thank you for bringing it up. But I would say that's also not a concern that the end user should be punished for, right? That is a beef between Twitter and the telco, not between Twitter and the users, right? Again, it's kind of like, well, telcos are able to abuse this thing to try and extract money from us, so we'll just get rid of the thing entirely, even though it's super helpful, it's super good for the end users.
Well, only time will tell. And in fact, one of the major things here is what is going to what's going to follow suit with a lot of these other platforms, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, Meta's coming. They're gonna look at it. They're gonna try to mimic certain things. What works, what doesn't work. We can already tell that the way Twitter's being ran today, some of it is just kind of off the cuff. So
well,
be it.
That's two of the major three, though. That's kind of, I think, one of the concerning things, right? It's like your big three are Facebook, which owns Facebook, Instagram, and a lot of other things. Twitter, and then you've got Google is really the only major, I would say, social media platform when it comes to things like YouTube. So it'll be interesting. Google already has paid subscriptions for YouTube. It would be, I think, tough for them to, though, roll out this kind of change because they are so massive and far-reaching. But we do have a couple other stories.
Sure.
Go ahead.
You want to say, talking about rolling out change? We have another major one coming up where Microsoft
we are on point with the segue game this week.
I love it. Microsoft is recommending Exchange admins to remove outdated exclusions. And so what we mean by rolling out change here is that if you've ever installed some kind of antivirus or endpoint security solution alongside a major product suite like Office or Exchange, you are often expected to put together what's called antivirus exclusions, or you basically tell the antivirus, hey, look, these files over here, they're part of something important. Let's just ignore them sometimes. But what does that do? That inherently creates a target list for attackers of known ignored binaries and executables on a system that are instructed to be left alone by antivirus. And so this story coming to us from Bleeping Computer is saying, you know what? Maybe giving you a bunch of exception files that are extremely dangerous and powerful wasn't exactly the best idea. What did you extract from this one?
Yeah, so the interesting thing here is, Microsoft themselves had recommended creating these exclusions, and now they are recommending removing them. It's exclusions targeting ASP.NET files, inetserv folders, PowerShell, W3WP processes. And the reason that all these exclusions were made, like you said, was because these were considered vital to the Exchange server running. The big change here is that if you are running up-to-date versions of Exchange server, right? So if you are running Defender on Exchange Server 2019, running the latest Exchange server updates, you don't need these exclusions anymore. These things have been accounted for in the processes of the server itself. So they're saying, hey, we're seeing a lot of attackers actually abuse this, so we recommend that you remove those exclusions and put them back into place. And it's that critical balancing act that we have within cybersecurity, right? Of usability and performance versus actual security itself. So it's really good, I think, to see Microsoft has taken steps to address the fact that these extremely powerful, ways for the attacker could abuse a server. They're actually addressing it and changing, apparently. At least this is my understanding. Changing the way that Exchange server uses those things, so that it doesn't need to be an exclusion anymore. That's really amazing. It is, though, a reminder that even if you remove those exclusions, or if you have exclusions in place, like, you have to be doing constant monitoring, right? Because you can remove those exclusions and maybe you'll see suddenly, oh, hey, actually, this was being abused within our environment. But you also have to keep an eye on the fact that there are still other exclusions that are going to be out there that, you are going to have to be accounting for. And Hazel, this is not a laying chair, but okay.
Well, so like the big picture here, and what I'm kind of seeing in this is that, yes, there are people still running Exchange on-prem or hosted Exchange. In
Yeah,
fact, just as recent as January, tens of thousands of internet facing, like publicly exposed Microsoft Exchange servers, are still vulnerable to even legacy attacks or what we consider older attacks, stuff like proxy not shell, proxy login flaws,
yeah,
which were, by the way, two of the most exploited vulnerabilities of 2021. So we're talking about a well-known vulnerability exploited in 2021, still
yeah.
being found in 2023 in public-facing Exchange servers. The way it sounds to me is you better have a really
Where'd you go? Oh, Jonathan froze. Well, Jonathan has been at like you mentioned, at a university to check in with our local OWASP partners. So
and I'm
maybe,
back.
okay, there we go.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say, maybe you lost connection there, but
It's okay. It's always interesting Wi-Fi over here at the university. But simply where I was going with this, right, is Exchange Server on-prem has a really interesting track record right now over the last couple of years, and
yeah,
organizations need to be thinking about, what's going to be going on in the next couple of years. Is this something we can maintain, or is this something you need to start looking at potentially migrating off of, especially because it is a massive target right now. Now, this step from Microsoft is in the right direction because it reduces the attack surface space that's publicly facing, saying, "Hey,
right.
these executables are now properly being watched by your endpoint security tools. They're not being ignored anymore. So stop trying to use them to leverage." So good job all around. But still, why are you still running Exchange on-prem?
They also do recommend, after you deploy your updates, always run your Exchange Server Health Checker scripts so that you can look for common configuration issues and things that can be fixed by just simple environment changes instead of like full-on updates, things like that. If you are an Exchange admin, get on this, I guess. Go make sure that you're up to date with the most recent cumulative updates so that these emergency kind of patches and fixes are deployed. Um, and make sure you're staying on top of your server health check, but always be cognizant of what things you are allowing to run in your environment.
That's a great segue.
That's great. That, you know what that is. Be cognizant of the things you're allowing to run in your environment. This one is fun, I think, because we all heard all the fervor over ChatGPT and how this is going to revolutionize malware, and it's going to change the way attackers work because it can write malicious code for you. And you know what? That's all true, but also that requires some work. That requires getting the AI to ignore its own protections that are put in place against it, writing code that involves actually like checking the code and things like that to see if it runs. So they've gone the easy way. They're using it to run malware by simply making fake apps called ChatGPT and getting unwitting people to install them and try and use them. Um,
Yeah, this is nothing new, right? Find what's hype, find what's going on, create fake apps that target those brand names, those clickbait things, the things that are fun.
yep.
Put them all over the Play Market, put them all over the App Store, get people to
Pay for
download
some
them.
ads on Google so that you show up in the top of
Yeah.
search results, right? This is something that entirely, like, I think of, people like my parents. They're not the most tech savvy. They hear about something like
Mhm.
ChatGPT. To
Yeah.
them, right, because their understanding of the way that tech works is kind of informed by just like their cultural osmosis of it, right? To them, the idea that ChatGPT is a website that you go to and blah blah blah, that doesn't really click with them, right? A website's like they go there for news, they consume content, they're not creating content. So for them, they think of something like
Yeah.
ChatGPT as an app. They would say, "Oh, what's that new app?" that's out there, right? And so they would probably search ChatGPT app and wind up getting one of these.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that, like, yes, ChatGPT is changing the way that attackers are leveraging malware, but it's just still the same old thing.
I wouldn't be surprised if somebody asked ChatGPT, "Hey, how would you run a malware campaign using your platform?" And it
Yep.
probably kicked out like, "I would make fake versions of me to put all over the internet," just like
Yeah.
the article that was on GPS Live several weeks ago regarding fake versions of other software.
Yeah.
I can
Exactly.
only hope it references us.
Yeah, yeah, totally, because we existed before its data set was closed off. Man, that would be great though if there was an update in like a year and you could ask it a question. It would be like, Jonathan and Tristan are the two enigmatic hosts of GPS Live.
Yes.
But that is that's an interesting little tidbit to close us out there. We are at the top of the hour though, so that means we have reached our time this week. Thank you so much again for joining us. If you've been here live, if you've been watching on demand, thank you for giving us some of your time there. We can still see your comments if you're watching it on demand. We can see you guys and check in with you later. And we hope to see you again next week on GPS Live at the same bat time, same bat channel. So 10:30 Pacific, 1:30 Eastern on Fridays. We will always be here in perpetuity until the heat death of the universe. I think that's what our contract states. So until then, I have been and will continue to be Tristan Morris.
And I am Jonathan Singer.
And on behalf of GuidePoint Security, thank you so much for joining us. We will catch you next week.